Awesome. Okay, so Erica, would you mind just introducing yourself and telling everyone kind of who you are and what you do?
Yeah, sure. So hi, I'm Erica. I run something called the Crypto Carry Club. So that's the main crypto community in the UK. I also work at CMS. It's the main law firm in the space. So I am fintech specialist there, advising on crypto and fintech strategy. And I also wrote a book called Crypto Wars: Fake Deaths, Missing Billions, and Industry Disruption about the biggest hacks and scams in crypto. So spent a lot of time researching that.
That's super interesting. So I guess kind of your area of expertise is crypto scams. Is that right?
It seems to be at the moment. Yes, I think I sort of started trying to learn more about crypto, and then the scams. The publisher asked me to write the book about the scams, and then you start researching that and finding out more, and then you go down the rabbit hole a little bit. And as a result of that, I've got to know people in law enforcement and in the crypto analytics companies. So it's turned out into a really exciting and interesting thing to research and find out more about.
That's amazing. So I guess I kind of want to have our discussion in two parts. So talking about first like the basics of crypto and crypto scams, and I'm sure that's what quite a few people are here for. But then also I think it'd be really interesting to kind of discuss your career journey and how you ended up taking something you had a passion for, which is now full or part-time work at the very least. So I guess to kind of dive in, how would you recommend someone get started in crypto investing?
I that's a different question to sort of working in crypto, getting started in crypto investing. Can't necessarily say I'd recommend that. I mean, crypto, it's a lot of people say I want to get a job in this space. That's a different question. We can there's courses, there's books, there's a lot of practical stuff that people can do to understand the technology, to play with the technology, and also turning up to events and so forth to meet the right people in the space. Sorry, and there's a noise outside. I'm just going to walk and close an outside door. That's not going to work. They're using the electricity. Go into a different room. So, but regarding getting started in crypto investing, it's that it's highly risky.
No, you're totally fine.
Builders going on outside, so I'm being sort of kicked out of normal places. Regarding crypto investing, it's highly risky. It's highly volatile. The markets get really badly manipulated, and as we've just seen just in the last few weeks, it can go from being really, really high and inflated to losing 60% of its value, or in some cases, 100% of its value, just like that. Yeah. It might be due to external market factors, it might be due to world economic factors or interest rates. It might just be because there's a problem within the protocol. So in investing it's super risky. And yeah, sure, lots of people make lots of money, and for everybody that makes lots of money, a lot of people lose a lot of money and lose it really easily and lose it really quickly. So I can't say I'd necessarily recommend people getting involved in investing unless they absolutely understand what they're doing, learn about it, understand markets, and are looking at money that they're happy to lose. But yeah, I can't say I'd necessarily recommend that. But as for sort of the other part of the question, learning about crypto, that's a totally different thing. That there's books. I mean, my book Crypto Wars, but there's other very good books out there. There's some courses, but also there's a lot of information outlined. There's a lot of information on the internet, blogs written, for example. There are people who really understand the markets going really deep into what happened. I'd always recommend, there's a company called Chainalysis. They do crypto tracing and crypto tracking, and they publish frequent reports about the latest news in crypto crime and how they track crypto, which I'd say are absolutely essential reading to anyone looking at the space, because they give an overview of some of the worst things that can happen and the things that can go wrong in the space.
That's super interesting. So how did you get involved in crypto? Especially like, do you yourself invest, or do you focus more on kind of the educational discussion networking?
I don't invest. I mean, A, I wouldn't have the skill for it. B, markets go up and down so much. I think, any little money I have would just be lost instantly. I also wouldn't have the interest in watching all of that volatility. So my focus is, most of my time until lockdown was on the networking events, the community. So we built up the Crypto Carry Club, and that started as really just an idea. I wanted to get other people together, so we organized the first event in 2018. I booked out an Indian restaurant. Indian is a national food in Britain. For anyone that hasn't been to Britain, you'll find out how awful and inedible British food is. So curry is a national food. So we started the Crypto Carry Club, and I just invited people that I thought would be interesting to get together. People running crypto companies that were doing good things in the space. And at the first one, we had 25 people came, and then within a year, the community had grown to over 1,000 people, and the events were filling up and booking out all the time. So we did more and more events. So we still got that community going. Most of my time now, I'm at the law firm, so advising them on crypto fintech strategy, which is fantastic. I mean, they're the biggest law firm in the space. They have over 100 crypto companies as clients, and fintech companies, and the different NFT platforms and metaverse platforms and banks and so forth. So constantly meeting all sorts of interesting projects and companies that are looking at getting to the space or doing things in the space. And now I'm working on book 2. So the Crypto Wars book, if anyone's thinking about launching a book or writing a book, you'll find that the writing is one big part of it, and then the editing is another big part of it, and then it's just an ongoing thing about trying to promote the book afterwards. So that's still a bit of time, and then working on book 2 at the moment, so researching and speaking to people.
So what will the subject of your next book be about? Crypto scams as well?
So it's not just going to be about crypto scams. I don't think the publisher is going to allow me to say the name and so forth yet, but it's not about the crypto scams. It's like a timeline of crypto, and from the start to where it is now, but the fun, exciting sides of it. So hopefully it will be fun and fast-paced and easy to read.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So on talking about crypto scams, what would you say your favorite scam to talk about is?
Oh gosh, there's a good question. At the moment, and probably just because I've met a few people in law enforcement and sort of I've been looking into them, the dating scams I find fascinating. It's the whole psychology behind them, and the more I hear about them, you've got what I learned recently. You have these scam schools in Ghana and some places in Africa, where people pay money, pay like a tuition fee, and go to the school to learn how to run these scams. And and then they sit there in sort of offices as if it were a job, typing away to people. And then there's numerous types of scams that they do, but one of the worst at the moment, because not only does it take people's money, but obviously it affects people emotionally, and they think they've fallen in love with somebody. They spend their time chatting to people and messaging people for hours a day until they believe they've fallen in love with them. And then they're smart, they know what they're doing. They're not saying to people, send me your crypto, because then some people might think, well, maybe not. But they have this whole thing saying, I've made money in crypto, and if you invest a bit, then you can make more money for us, for our future, for our relationship. So they really sell the dream. And so people think they're investing for themselves and for their future. And then they say, go to Binance or go to crypto.com or go to one of the legitimate crypto exchanges. And then they buy their crypto. And then when they feel safe with that, they say, well, I found a better crypto exchange. I found a better platform that offers a different type of crypto token or lower fees or whatever. And then, once they feel comfortable and they trusted them because they bought their crypto on a legitimate exchange, then they get the people, their victims, to send their cryptocurrency from a real crypto exchange to what is basically a scam wallet. And what they do, they build out these websites that look exactly like a crypto exchange. They look real, they look authentic. There's ways that they can basically copy websites to make them look incredibly authentic, so people think, I've just sent my money to a different crypto exchange, which is real, which is legitimate, and then I'm going to trade my money because it's going to make us money for our future, and we're going to be in love forever. And of course, once they've sent their money, their crypto from the real crypto exchange to the scam address, and that money is lost for good, and then the scammer disappears out of their lives. So really sad, but just fascinating how there's this whole professional setup behind it, and people learning it, and they really make people believe that they're in love with them. And if anyone's seen the Tinder swindler, it's much like that, but it's schools training guys who pay for the tuition and how to learn how to do this, which is slightly fascinating. And then the other one, I mean, favorite probably isn't the right word, but probably the one I think is the worst type of crypto scam that really has affected the most number of people in volumes around the world. You've got these crypto scams that use multi-level marketing, and they have commission payouts for everybody who gets involved. So they if you get involved, you invest, and then they're Ponzi schemes, they're pyramid schemes, Ponzi schemes. So the first people who invest, and when you initially invest, you send in some money, and then you get money back with a profit. So you think this is good, but then what they do, they say, well, if you bring friends or other people in, you get a really high commission. So people think, well, I've sent my money in, I've invested, I got money back, it's good. So I'll invest more money, because then that means I'll make more money. And then I'll also get my friends and family and everybody else in, because then I get really high commissions. So what happens with these, the pyramid schemes, the multi-level marketing scams, they offer really good promises. They say, well, you'll make so much money, we'll give you a new cryptocurrency which is going to go up so much in value, or we've got a trading algorithm, so we'll trade it for you and you'll make lots of money, or we've got a special exchange, so it'll be really safe, so we'll look after your money safely, or we've got a mining software, so we'll mine crypto for you and you'll get lots of free money, and you'll get guaranteed returns of really high unsustainable amounts, but 10-20% a week sometimes, and compounded, that adds to a lot. So they make all of these good promises, and for the first few weeks they pay out, so people believe it, but then they say, well, if you bring your friend in, you'll get these really high commissions. So then people go around, once they've invested and they've invested more money, they get all of their friends to invest as well, they get all of their families to invest. And what's really bad with these is it's a very gray area between who's innocent and who's guilty. And a lot of the people who bring other people in to invest, they really believe it's good, they don't know any better, they've got their money back, so they think it's okay. But then also there's a lot of people who probably know that it's a scam, or know that it's not good, but then they know they're getting their commission, so they don't care. So there's been a lot of stories about religious leaders and community leaders going around to promote these scams to their congregations, to their communities, and even getting the scammers in to promote the scams themselves to their to their religious congregations and so forth. And I think that's quite bad, because what they don't say is how much commission they're getting for everybody that invests. And there's been stories of religious leaders getting these scams to promote their congregations, and then the next week turning up with a new Mercedes because they made so much commission from that. And so there's a lot of dishonesty that goes on. But the problem with these multi-level marketing scams, because they just get so big, because not only do the scam promote them, but every victim ends up promoting them as well.
Wow, that's really, as you were talking, I was like, that does sound like the Tinder swindler, and I'm kind of surprised there's no Netflix documentary about it yet. But I guess
there's a few coming out about the crypto scams. There's one coming out about the OneCoin one. So it's the OneCoin was the biggest Ponzi scheme in crypto. It's not as big as Bernie Madov's Ponzi scheme. I believe he made about 65 billion. And the OneCoin one is at the moment estimated that it made about 25 billion. So still big by any definition of the word. And it's what's interesting with that is they never had a product. It was literally just thinner. They had promises about you'll get this new cryptocurrency, it's going to go up in value. They didn't even have a cryptocurrency. They were just selling promises. But because of the power of multi-level marketing, it got really big. And what's crazy about that, the OneCoin scam, so that's the biggest scam in crypto. It's quite public. There's a lot of information in the world about OneCoin and about it being a scam. The FBI have been on the case since, well, probably before 2017, but they announced publicly to the world that OneCoin is a scam. So they've arrested the brother of the founder, the lawyer, the money launderer. They've arrested a lot of the key people. These people are in prison for life. They're still trying to arrest certain people. The founder disappeared in 2017, and she's the most wanted woman by a lot of criminal lists around the world. She's a very public figure for having disappeared and for being wanted. So, it's been public since 2017 that this is a scam, that people have been arrested for life, that that 25 billion has been stolen, that there's wanted lists out for the people behind it, it's publicly known that it's a scam, and yet still it's going. Even today, there are events happening promoting OneCoin around the world. There are still events going on. The people that still believe it, that still support it, are still putting on events, still putting on conferences, still bringing people in, still making money from it around the world. I just did recently just a quick LinkedIn search for OneCoin, and there's still 1,100 people on their profiles promoting the fact that they promote OneCoin today. And you're talking 5 years as this has been exposed as being a scam that everyone's lost money in since 2017. And the problem with that is because it got totally out of control, and most people have lost all of their money, and most people now still involved in it will continue to lose all of their money that invest. But the people who organize it, the people right at the top who start it, get the commissions from those that they bring in. So yeah, it just goes to show how powerful the multi-level marketing scams can be and how people want to believe them. And the problem is, and part of the problem is that because people invest a lot in them, they don't want to believe that it's failed. Maybe they hear it's a scam, but they're so invested that they don't want to believe that. So a lot of the problem is sort of the psychology that they think, well, I want to keep this going because then maybe there's a chance I'll get my money back. And of course there's no chance that they'll get their money back, but people, I think, live in hope and become a little bit delusional once they've invested so much.
Wow. That's enlightening. I had no idea that it was kind of that big. I always associated multi-level marketing with like household products or beauty products, essential oils, that kind of thing. So it's really interesting to hear.
Well, that's the problem with it, because most multi-level marketing is stuff like that. But then when you combine the power of multi-level marketing with crypto products that guarantee you're going to get rich quick, that's been the problem.
Yeah, and not even a physical product. So that's
yes.
So interesting. We've got a question here. I don't know if you were able to click on the Q&A box.
Where do I see the Q&A? Oh, yes.
It's quite long, so it might be easier for you to read yourself. The question is, I'll read it out for everyone else. Considering your profession is so crypto focused, but you don't personally invest, would you consider yourself a crypto skeptic? And do you think all crypto is essentially valueless, aside from spectators trying to make a quick buck? And then there's a second part, but we can address that one.
Yeah, so do I consider myself a crypto skeptic? No, not at all. The opposite. Do I think that all crypto is essentially valueless, aside from spectators trying to make a quick buck? No, not at all. The opposite. But there's a caveat to that. I don't invest, partly because I don't have money to, partly because I would just find it so incredibly stressful, partly because I know that if I did, I would lose everything I put in. Just that's a personal choice. Also, it's highly manipulated. But no, I don't consider crypto to be valueless at all. So I think with cryptocurrency as a context, there's got to be two sort of paths to look at it. So firstly, at the moment, you've got about 1,900 cryptocurrencies. Of those, probably 99% are valueless. And likewise, we had the ICO boom in 2016 to 2018, where you had thousands of new products launched, and 98%. So I think it was the American SEC, the Securities Exchange Commission, did a study about all of the different initial coin offerings launched, and they found that 98% of them had totally collapsed and lost all investors' money by the end. So some of those were scams, some of those were just hopeless projects that would never have got off the ground in any other means. Some of them bad luck, various factors, not all scams, but most people lost all money. And I think that's the case with probably the same percentage of cryptocurrencies out today. You've got some really good ones, and you've got a lot that are there just because of opportunists trying to make a lot of money. And then you've got a lot of bad factors in the space, like with the scams and all of that. There's a lot of opportunists trying to take advantage of the space. But to a degree, that exists in every industry. Does that say anything bad about the core technology of cryptocurrency? No, not at all. You've got with crypto is an incredible technology that for the first time allows anybody to make transactions to anybody else without having to rely on a bank, without having to rely on a third party, without it being stopped. You can send money abroad. There's now cryptocurrencies that allow for free instant transactions, and there's a lot of incredible use cases coming out, such as with cryptocurrency. You can send microtransactions for free. You can send effectively less than 1 cent or 1p instantly for free. Equally recently there was an instance where $1 billion was sent instantly for $7 and really securely. So cryptocurrency allows a lot more types of transactions to occur than are otherwise possible with fiat currency. It gives a lot of freedom, economic freedom, to a lot of people. There's a lot of people around the world who simply cannot rely on their fiat infrastructures, on their local national currencies, for various reasons, because the government is totally corrupt, which is often the case, because central banks are incompetent, because countries have got hyperinflation, because economies have collapsed, because of sanctions, because of war, because of various factors that mean that national currencies are not a safe way to hold value, or in some cases where they're restricted from being able to send their national currency, across border, home to family, or so forth. So a lot of people around the world rely on crypto literally as a lifeline, because otherwise they're not safe. Cryptocurrency, not all cryptocurrencies are private. Bitcoin, it's traceable, but there are private cryptocurrencies. There are other people around the world who live in countries that are considered to not be safe, that rely on cryptocurrencies to make payments, because otherwise they would be tracked by hostile governments. So, there are really good life-saving use cases for cryptocurrency that is outside of government control and outside of bank control. So am I against cryptocurrency? No, not at all. I'd be more willing to say I would totally and utterly distrust the UK government and several other governments much more than I would distrust Bitcoin. But within cryptocurrency, I think one has to be skeptical. So it's not to say that I'm skeptical about the whole thing. I think there's some incredible use cases, and I think there's not enough focus that happens on the use cases. But there's also a lot one has to be skeptical over. There is a lot of crime, there's a lot of scams, there's a lot of people taking advantage of the space, and there's a lot of bad stuff going on, and things like not all projects are good. A lot of scammers will take over celebrities' accounts, will pay influencers to promote them, or so forth. There's a lot of bad advertising going on. So, I think within the space, one has to be skeptical about a lot of it, and one has to not trust everything about a lot of the space. But, I think why I'm interested in the space is personally, do I care, or does it affect me if the price of Bitcoin is this or that or the other? It doesn't affect me in any way. And the scams are bad, but also what we've got in the space is a potential for changing how payments are made. So, I mean, just as an example, I used to live and travel around South America, and this was before Bitcoin was invented, but there was a time when I had all bank cards stolen. I was mugged quite a few times in a row, and I had to rely on Western Union for the rest of the rest of a trip, the rest of a summer. And Western Union, it's a remittance company, they were charging 14% and made you wait 3 days to get the money. So you had to walk to the Western Union branch. I had to call my dad in England. He would send money kindly, and that arrived 3 days later, minus 14%, and in cash. And cash in a lot of places is useless. I'd just been mugged 4 times. The last thing I wanted was to have to go around carrying cash, which they'd already taken 14% of. Whereas with cryptocurrency, had that hypothetically happened when Bitcoin was invented, I could have just had a store that wouldn't have relied upon me having physical bank cards, just as an example. Or somebody could have sent me money for far less money. So there's now crypto projects that are looking at how can we change the remittance industry to be able to send money abroad to friends or family members or so forth for 1%, not the 14% that they charge. There's another project that's working, I believe, with the Indonesian government and with some insurance companies. So in Indonesia, in the islands, people don't earn a lot of money by Western standards. And because they haven't traditionally been able to get access to bank accounts, they also haven't been able to get access to insurance and disaster insurance. And this is a place with a lot of volcanoes. So if there's a volcano and it destroys your house, then basically it's tough luck, you lose your house, because they haven't had bank accounts. And the problem was, because these were people without banks living on remote islands, the cost of getting the financial payout to them from insurance was higher than the value of the insurance money, because often people would have to then fly out in helicopters with lots of cash, which wasn't seen as viable. So insurance just wasn't on offer there. And now there's this new cryptocurrency related project where an insurance company is working with digital wallets so that people can get digital wallets just on smartphones, which most people have. And then if there is an insurance disaster, they can get insurance which they can pay for digitally. And then if there is a disaster, they get the payout digitally, just automatically, which reduces a lot of the costs and makes insurance a lot more accessible for people. There's another really cool project called Plastic Bank. So they're working on collecting waste plastic from around the world. So traditionally, there's been a problem where waste plastic hasn't had a value. So people would throw away plastic just into the environment or into the ocean and discard it because it wasn't a value. And people were worried about how to feed their kids that evening, not about the plastic in the environment. So there'd been a few attempts at incentivizing people to collect the plastic, to pay them to pick it up, but they were paying in cash, and there were 2 problems. Because they were relying on sort of the fluctuating plastic prices, they paid different amounts every time, so people didn't trust them, and they were paying in cash. So what happened, you often had women going to pick up the plastic and getting the cash. And then there were stories about basically gangs of guys waiting outside where they would get paid cash, knowing that there'd be women that they could just rob the cash off straight away. So that was a huge problem. Keeping cash isn't always safe. And also because of the fluctuating plastic prices, people didn't trust that. So Plastic Bank came along, and they've done 2 things. They've used blockchain technology, which is the technology that crypto is built on, to basically use that. We don't need to go into the tech, but to prove that the plastic that they collect, that they recycle it there, that it really is true, authentic, recycled plastic. Because there's been another problem where it's cheaper to create new plastic and shred it than it is to get waste plastic and recycle it. So there had been problems mostly in China where factories were creating new plastic and shredding it and selling that as recycled plastic, then to recycle it. So that had been a scam. So with Plastic Bank, they can prove that the plastic that they get is recycled, but also they were giving digital wallets to their to their plastic collector. So people could get paid digitally for the first time, which meant that their money was safer. But it also meant that they could, for the first time, save money digitally. And because they were getting paid digitally, they could use that digitally to pay school fees or to pay for food or swap that for food. So they could get a credit score for the first time. So they could get loans, so they could get mortgages, so they can get insurance. So just the fact of having digital wallets where people are paid in a cryptocurrency, it opened up a whole new world of sort of economic possibility and freedom to you're talking people all around the world now that this is helping. And there's cryptocurrency and cryptocurrency. There's some of the more volatile cryptocurrency, but then also there are cryptocurrencies that have the potential to be stable, that are backed by the dollar or other assets. So they're using that. So that's a long answer to say that one has to be skeptical about a lot in crypto, but about the core, no, not at all.
I think that's really interesting, you talking about like the alternative uses. And it kind of made me wonder. I know a lot of times the issues with homelessness is that, you can't get a bank account, you can't get paid if you don't get a bank account, and all these different things. So it makes me wonder if potentially like crypto is kind of an answer to that. And I think you've answered the second part of this question here, where someone's asked, do you feel like there will be a day where those who don't get out at the right time will be left holding the bag?
With that, I think always, in the sense that, and this isn't just about crypto, but crypto especially, it's at the moment it's very volatile, and at the moment markets are manipulated. Whatever one says, so the markets are manipulated, and that will happen. It's already happened recently, and that will happen again. But the crypto markets move in waves. Go down, go up. At the moment they're down. I'm sure at some point they'll go up again, and so forth. So I don't think that's an exclusive thing to crypto. Crypto markets are more manipulated, and we've seen it a lot of times. I think there's a lot of projects that are unreliable, a lot that will go bust, a lot that will go bust, I think, soon as a result of the current market. A lot of people will be, yes, but I think then that's up to people to choose if they're going to invest in crypto, choose to invest in or put money into things that they think are safe. And a lot of the people that at least I've seen that have lost real money and sort of left holding bags, to use that expression, it's some people get in and then the price goes up and then they don't sell, and then they keep it in, and then the market crashes and then people panic, or even now you see recently with the lunar and the Celsius crashes and collapses, there'd been a lot of warnings around those, and some people had chosen to get out early to be safe, and other people thought, no, it's okay, I'll get more interest, I'll just keep holding on, and then got caught. So it's not a black and white thing. I think with crypto, a lot of people probably take more risks than I would feel safe with. Obviously that's up to them, but then it's about I would say it, if markets go up, they're probably going to go down again at some point. And yes, they might go up further. Of course they might. But a lot of people think I'm just going to hold on because it's going to go up and up and up and up and up and up. And then they hold on when it goes up a bit more and then it crashes down. Instead of sometimes thinking, okay, I've made a profit, maybe it's just good to get out. And, especially in crypto, when there's warning signs with the Terra crash and with the Celsius crash, neither of those happened instantly overnight. There'd been a run up of weeks of rumors, of warnings, of negative news around those. So a lot of people did cash out of those, leading up to the crashes, because they saw the warning signs and they saw the problems. So I think there's a lot more that people can do to avoid some of the risks, just by sometimes not holding on for the maximum profit.
Wow. So we've got another question here. It says, you mentioned crypto value manipulation. Is this different to the scams? And if so, can you tell us a little bit more about that?
It is different to the scams, in the sense that, I think, the scams, and this is, 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 I think, the scams, and this is The scams just start out often to be scams from the start, whereas market manipulation, it's more because it's an unregulated market. It's people getting away with doing it. So you've got there's some institutions in the space. There's some of the bigger funds. There's some of the bigger holders that have, and even see some individuals, but they own enough crypto that they can make the markets move pretty much single-handedly by placing big sell or buy orders. If they place a big sell order, for example, then that often will push the price down because people think, someone's going to sell a lot, so it's going to push the price down, so I better sell before them, or buy orders. So there's some individuals, people and companies that can themselves affect the markets just by sort of playing the markets to push the price down, to buy more, to push the price up, to be able to sell at the top and so forth. So that happens, and what happens is they do well, and a lot of innocent people end up losing money in that. The other type of market manipulation, which we've seen a lot of, is influencers, whereby, especially with some of the lower cap cryptocurrencies that are more volatile, they don't have much volume, and there's a lot of volatility there, and there's not the same amount of money in it, so they're easier to manipulate. So what there has been a lot of is YouTube influencers and so forth will buy a chunk of that token and will then promote it on YouTube, or promote it and go, this is really good, it's really good because blah blah blah, it's going to go up in price because blah blah blah, and then people see that and believe it, and then other people buy more of it thinking that it's good. And then the fact that people buy more of it because it's quite a volatile cryptocurrency, that pushes the price up because because there's not so much volume of it. So then people think, well, they're right, the YouTuber was right, it's going up, and then they keep releasing videos, and then does that make sense? So that by sort of releasing this information that it's going to go up, they've already bought in themselves, other people buy in, which pushes the price up. So then people think that the influencer is correct, so they believe the influencer more and buy more, which pushes the price up. So when the price gets high, the influencer then sells, and then everybody else is left holding the bag in that sense, because then the price crashes and other people lose out. So I've seen that happen, and I'm sure that's still happening. And then the other thing in crypto is you've got these pump and dump scams. So where you've got basically organized groups where people join, like a Telegram group or a sort of social media group, and they organize that with some of the more volatile cryptocurrencies at whatever set time that everybody is going to buy this specific token, a specific cryptocurrency, because then what that does is they will all buy this specific cryptocurrency at a set time, and because of, again, there's limited volume, that will push the price up. And then other people in the markets or trading bots often will think the price is going up, so we better buy this. And then other people on trading bots will buy it. And then the people that organize the pump sell it, so it crashes. And then everybody else loses money. So you see a lot of that. And when you look at sort of crypto charts, you often see sort of flat, 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 huge needle spike, flat, flat, flat. So that's when there's been a pump and dump.
Wow.
So they are kind of scammy, but I'd say it's a different thing. So yeah, long answer.
No, I was just going to say that's really interesting. I've not heard that expression used in that context. So that's loads of new information here for me. Cool. I am curious. So I know that a lot of times there's a discussion around like how the sustainability issues of using blockchain and like for mining, because it's so resource intensive. So I'm curious if you have, I know this isn't particularly your area, but if you just have any thoughts about kind of how that future will evolve with the sustainability aspect of it.
Yeah, so it's not a black and white thing. So Bitcoin, for example, is notoriously high in energy use, and notoriously so. Bitcoin uses more energy than some countries, and it's not a black and white thing. Fiat currency, printing physical money, also uses a lot of energy. So it's not that to say that Bitcoin is the only type of currency that uses a lot of energy, but Bitcoin does use a lot of energy. And I would see Bitcoin, if anybody's been to London and been on the tube in London, we've got the underground system, the tube in London. It's the first, sort of the oldest underground system in the world. You know, it was built, I don't know, about over 100 years ago. So, you know, when it was built, it was the first at what it did. It was fantastic. It got people around, it got people moving. Now, you know, over 100 years later, it's not the fastest in the world. It's not the most efficient. It's certainly not the cheapest. It often runs late. There's often problems with it. But in many ways, it's the best. It's the original. It started the whole movement going. So if you go to Singapore or Hong Kong or, you know, other places, you know, the metro system works instantly. It arrives on time. It's efficient. It uses low energy. It's cheap. It operates perfectly. So I tend to sort of see Bitcoin and cryptocurrency a bit like that. Like, Bitcoin isn't low energy, but it was the first at what it did. And, you know, the fact that it's high energy also means that it's incredibly secure. That's one of the factors that makes it very, very safe as a store of money if you hold it in sort of Bitcoin without trusting external wallets and so forth. So, you know, it's not to say that all cryptocurrencies and all blockchains use a lot of energy. There are some that are sort of notorious for being high energy and for being bad for the environment. And then there's others being developed that are effectively no energy. So it's not that anything digital is no energy. Anything we use digitally uses energy. For us being on Zoom, that's using energy. Every time we send a WhatsApp message, that uses energy. If we send a photo, that uses energy, email, whatever. Everything we do uses energy digitally. It's just not us directly paying for it. It's Facebook and the big data centers that pay for it. So we don't really see it. But there are now blockchains and cryptocurrencies that use no more energy than would be used if we were, you know, sending a WhatsApp message or so. So that technology is changing fast. People are aware of it. You know, there's no benefit to it being high energy in the sense that people are aware of that and are working on changing the problem. I think what I would say is that it's a area with a real big sort of brain drain of talent moving into crypto. A lot of the world's smartest people are moving to work in the space, from traditional retail companies, from finance companies, you know, from a lot of the biggest companies in the world. So you've got a lot of the smartest people in the world moving to work in crypto because they're more excited by it, because there's more innovation, because, you know, more exciting things are happening in it. So I think it's one of the problems that will be solved. It's just a work in progress. And there are lower energy solutions.
That's so interesting to hear, because I've always seen crypto associated, or like NFTs especially, like with, you know, being so energy intensive. So that's really interesting to hear about kind of that new technology, or if it is.
Well, NFTs reportedly are, but there are, again, there's platforms and platforms. So there's ways of doing NFTs that are less energy use, but because then they're less popular or less used platforms, and there's less ability to trade them and so forth.
Oh, interesting.
But the technology is already there to do these things using less energy.
So we've only got a couple minutes left, so I just wanted to make sure if anyone has any questions, feel free to type it in the chat or the question and answer box. So I guess kind of in the meantime, just to end our session here, what advice would you give your past self, kind of as you left uni and as you started getting interested in crypto?
So what advice would I give?
Yeah, to your past self, if you could.
Oh gosh. That's difficult. Do a totally different course at uni. Never stop traveling. Definitely don't come back to England. Yeah. I think definitely don't come back to England. I do regret coming back to England after traveling and get caught up in the corporate world and jobs and all of that. I think so. It's hard to say in hindsight.
I know a lot of your work is kind of moving towards the Crypto Curry Club and your books. So are you in the like transitioning to being full-time with that at the moment? Or is it what you're thinking about? I'm
really enjoying this. So I'm part-time at the law firm, which really, really enjoying. That's super, super fun. And you meet incredible people through that. The writing, the book, that was a strange surprise. The publisher reached out to me at the start of lockdown, and I thought I'll do a book because I've never done a book before. How hard can it be? It can't be that much work. I was flattered to be asked, and I thought, yeah, it would be good to have a book. And I totally underestimated how much work it is to do a book. And, you know, at the start, I had no confidence whatsoever. I procrastinated for months because I'd never written anything before and I didn't know how to write. And, you know, this was in the middle of lockdown. So I sort of panicked and then therefore didn't do anything and then froze. And then after I'd sort of done it, I reread it. I think towards the end, I realized that I could get away with writing the way my mind thinks, sort of, probably, you know, to use someone else's the questions word, to you know, to be a bit skeptical and a bit cynical and a bit sarcastic about the worst elements of the space. And I think I got confidence out of that. So, you know, I really enjoy that. So yes, it would be cool to do more writing, and I hope that book 2 starts becoming fun soon.
Oh, well, that's amazing. Okay, we've got one last question here. Are the police and courts able to keep pace with how fast the crypto world and scams develop? Do you think crypto needs to be better regulated globally?
Are the police and courts? So yes and no. So in the sense that the police and courts now have access to the best softwares out there. You've got some incredibly powerful crypto analytics tools and softwares that are able to trace transactions. You know, they can find out that so and so stole money and it's now sitting on this exchange, and then they now have the power to get court orders to freeze that money on exchange. And, you know, so that they have the technology to track crypto and to find out where it's gone, and, you know, to seize crypto and so forth. So they have the technology out there, and the courts are getting more powerful in that in terms of what they can do, and we've seen some real examples of that. I think what I'd say for the police, and, you know, having spent time with them, you know, as sort of research for the books, is they've got incredible people and they've got all of the tools and technology that, you know, that they could ever need. The problem with it, and this isn't their fault, is that they're under resourced. They need a lot more police people than they have, which I would say is a government fault. They just don't have enough people, and then the problem is there's so many scams and problems that they just don't physically have enough people to keep up with how many scams and stuff there are out there. I would say, I mean, from what I've seen is you know, the law is changing around it, and the courts have really proven that, you know, sometimes when crypto gets stolen, that they can seize it and get it back and so forth. So we're really seeing that. If anything, it's the government regulators that have been lagging behind in dealing with sort of regulating the industry to make it safer and more stable for all.
Wow, well, thank you so much for that. I don't see any more questions, so I'm going to go ahead and send a link to this little guide that Erica, it's massive. They've done a fantastic job. Erica and her team have put together a guide on NFTs and crypto. So that is linked there. So feel free to take a look at that. You can save it to your own Google Drive or download it to your desktop. Erica, do you mind if I share the link to your LinkedIn profile so people can see?
Yes, of course. Yeah, please do. Yeah.
Awesome. So you can check out Erica's details on Erica's book there, and also the Crypto Curry Club.
Someone's just said they can't see the link for Bailey.
Oh, sorry. I sent it to just the host and panelists. Okay. Thank you, Paul. There is the link to Erica's LinkedIn, and here is the link to the document. Okay, there we go. So if there aren't any more questions, then thank you so much, Erica. This has been really great. Do you have any last words that you want to offer?
No, well, thank you for having me. Yeah, anyone, please do feel free to message on LinkedIn, or please buy the book. And yeah, happy to.
Well, thank you so much.
So thank you for having me.
Have a good one, everybody.
Take care.
Bye. Bye.